Wonderful to have you all here. Of course, it's my great pleasure to get to introduce our speaker this morning, Brandon Chrostowski. As you all know, he's the founder of the EDWINS Leadership and Restaurant Institute. Brandon has trained in some of the finest restaurants all around the world, and he has been named 2016 CNN Hero. Wonderful to have you here. Of course, he has a very inspirational story to tell and have wonderful vision to share. So please, a warm welcome to Brandon.
Well, Jeanne just told me, I guess I got a tough act to follow. I heard Martin Luther King spoke here. Is that right? Well, not recently, yeah. It's a big wake to be in. But I just want to, thank you everyone for showing up. I mean, I think that the standing room only crowd is a testament to this mission that we're on. This idea of a fair and equal opportunity. This idea of a second chance. And maybe some of you are here for free advertising, but we don't have any. You can leave if you want. But I really thank you very much for being here. As Jeanne said, my name is Brandon. I'm here along with Val and Derek over here. If you have any questions later. And the idea behind today's speech was, one, to tell you a little bit more about the history of EDWINS, currently where we sit and where we're going. And let you know that, starting October 2nd, following the 9 o'clock service, we'll be starting kind of a town hall series, talking about many of the barriers that it takes to come home from prison and how you can get involved. Whether it's getting involved in EDWINS, getting involved as a parish, or getting involved as a family, and that's up to you. But we're going to tell you what's out there, what needs to be done, and how we can connect the dots. So for those of you who don't know the story, well, first of all, who's ate at EDWINS? I see a lot of diners. Yep, perfect. All right. Well, good thing I didn't bring appetizers. I tell you, it's great. EDWINS was born from a break. I was young, and I was I don't want to say dumb, maybe it's careless. But I got caught in a crime and was thrown in jail. I was facing 5 to 10 years in prison, and I had the fortune of having a judge who gave me a second chance. He said I had more to offer, and so he gave me probation. And it was on that probation that I found a chef, kind of a chubby Greek chef who was in Detroit, right on Woodward Avenue. If anyone's been to Detroit, there was a Fox Theater right there, and next to it was a restaurant. It was called Rosada. And that's where Chef George really mentored me and taught me that it's not practice that makes perfect, but perfect practice that makes perfect. And from there, I thought I was going to set the world on fire. I went away to school. I was the first one to leave the state and go to college. I went to the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, and got a great lesson there. And the greatest lesson of all those, when I arrived, I noticed I wasn't struggling or kind of trying to refine these skills like most of the students there. I had like a solid set of fundamentals. And I was due in part to a mentor. And you'll see where the story comes in a couple of minutes, but you can kind of see the basis of EDWINS already. This strong lesson from a strong leader. And when George taught me, and I got to CIA, I said, look, if this is where I'm at in a competition, I need to go further. I think I can be the best that I can be. I'm on borrowed time. A lot of my friends aren't doing so hot, so I need to keep doing more. So I worked under a chef named Charlie Trotter. Does anyone know him? Yeah, real SOB if you really know him. Okay. Now this guy, he was something else. He would get you any day of the week. You think you're prepared, Chef Trotter would push you further. And any of the chefs that work for him will tell you the same thing. Yes, he was tough, but they wouldn't be where they're at without him. He taught me that there was a world without limits. 7:30 Friday night is not the place to be if you want to be standing around, right? It's busy in a restaurant. It's busy. And I can remember being on the line one day and working very hard and just getting my can kicked and thought I couldn't handle it anymore. Chef Trotter comes in, he says, Brandon, I want you to meet our guest chef, Jeanne. And Jeanne's going to, if you set her up with the first course on your station and show her how things go, and what do you say to the chef?
Yes, yes.
Okay, bingo. Yes, chef. All right, Jeanne, welcome. And meanwhile, this woman or this man is half in the bag because they're drinking all day and all night and having fun in Charlie Trotter's kitchen. And we're trying to put out the food. So, he taught me that, you think you have it in a bag, you can push it that much further. So here's the seed of limitlessness, right? You can do anything. You can do anything. Now, coming from a city in Detroit and seeing kind of a side of life that wasn't always traditional, having no limits wasn't foreign. But how far the limits can be, or how far as limitless you can take it, what was foreign to me. So I was very grateful for Charlie Trotter's lessons, although he's, well, we'll cross that bridge. After my apprenticeship, I went back to school, because that's what you do. You finish up school, and afterwards I say, I've got to go farther. I've got to make it happen, right? I've got to do something better and bigger, so I said, I'm going to go to France. And this is before 9/11, where you get open-ended tickets, right? So I just hop on a plane, I go to France. I didn't call my mother for 3 months. She ended up calling the restaurant in France I was working. She said, what's wrong with you? I said, nothing, I'm working. You call your mother. I said, okay, sorry. So I learned another great lesson. Call your mother. So, well, anyways, I work in this restaurant, and I'm illiterate, right? I can't read, write, or speak. But I just knew that the great chefs go to France, so did I. So I start working, but I realized a great lesson, another third lesson: hard work doesn't have a language, right? It doesn't have a language. It's universal. You can go to Spain, you can go to Italy, you can work hard, and it's recognized. I worked my way from that small town in Tours to Paris, to the finest restaurant called Lucas Carton, a Michelin 3-star restaurant. So I started to see this route that you can take when there's no limits and you work hard and you make it happen with what you have and so on. So I say, well, gotta go back to New York. I miss baseball too much. And so here we go. In Manhattan, I start working at great restaurants. I say, I'm going to set the world on fire. I'm going to be the best chef this city's never seen. But unfortunately, a lot of things happen. Unfortunately, what do we think about this? So, one, my heart started to wear down a little bit. Not physically, I'm in good shape. I go to the doctor, they check me out okay. Just the idea that there was some with nothing and there was others with a lot. And let me explain. So working in the finest restaurants, they pay the least. So, you know, not only did I grow up with just a little less, but when you start working in these great restaurants, you get a lot less. So I would always live in the poor neighborhoods, but work in the finest restaurants. So, you know, here you are, Madame, here's your, $5,000 bottle of Romanée Conti, and then, then you go back to your neighborhood and, you're struggling to see people pay for a quart of milk. So that just started to unsettle. Another thing was, I got phone calls from back home. I remember I was at Le Cirque, and I was working in the kitchen there, and I got a call from Detroit from Chef George, the chef that mentored me. And he said, Quentin just got stabbed to death, it was like 20 or 30 times, found in an abandoned building. And Quentin, you don't know him, but I'll just describe him. He came from the South. He used to pick watermelons. He was a country boy, probably as simple as can be, and something tragic happened to him. And then our sous chef, Mike, he got killed over someone that wanted to cut his, so he said, hey, you can cut my lawn, here's $5. The guy didn't want to cut his lawn for $5, so he knocked him down, and that was it. So it was just unfortunate to see this disparity. And then I just couldn't help but think about where I came from. And I looked at the kind of difference in color, my skin from someone else's, which shouldn't make a difference, but it made all the difference. From the break that I got from a judge, I can almost guarantee you I would have got a longer sentence, if not the full 5 to 10 years, if my skin was a different color. Because I saw it. In Detroit, 95% African American. And I couldn't help but see all those next to me kind of just sitting there in mediocrity, not getting opportunities while I was able to get out and move on. And I couldn't deal with that injustice. So I started to do some research, and I started to look at where my life could have been if I didn't have George, a mentor. If I didn't have Charlie Trotter, this man who could just push these limits. If I didn't have the great fortune of just having these mentors in my life. And so I looked at these prison statistics, and I was appalled. I looked at how many people get incarcerated. I mean, today we have 2.3 million people behind bars. This costs us $74 billion a year. That's 6 times more than we spend on higher education. So you start to read this and you say, okay, you know life isn't fair, right? You know it's injustice. But then you start looking at the cold hard facts and you say, whoa, now something can be done. But what? I dug a little bit deeper and I looked at how many people are getting incarcerated. Today I'll catch you up with today's stats. So we have 5% of the world's population, but we have 25% of the prison population. So when we look at North Korea, we look at the Middle East, and we say, these heathens, these scoundrels, right? How bad are they? We're worse, 5 to 8 times worse than any other country when it comes to incarceration. So we have these, we have a system and a culture here that incarcerates, and I say to myself, well, people belong in prison, okay? They do something wrong, they belong there. Okay, so maybe those stats I can brush aside, but the one stat I couldn't get over was this idea of recidivism. Okay, the rate at which someone returns to prison, it's half. Half of those in America that go to prison will go back in 3 years. Half. Something's wrong here. There needs to be an opportunity, a fair and equal opportunity to get people a hand up and say, hey, take it if you want it. And that's how Edwins was born. That was it. And how does Edwin's work? It's a 6-month training program. And what we're doing is we're teaching the fundamentals. We're teaching that perfect practice makes perfect, not just practice makes perfect. Along this journey, we're challenging our students. You see, we don't ask about anyone's previous offense or their education level. I don't give a damn. And anyone that works around me does it, and those who enjoy the food I apparently don't either, which is good, because that's how it should be. You want an opportunity? Well, here, we open the doors and we receive you. The twist to this is we really grind people out those first 3 weeks. We put them through a boot camp, if you would. So it's challenge after challenge after challenge, and not something that's like, I don't know, brain surgery or chemistry or something like this. It's memorization. How many pints in a quart? How many quarts in a gallon? And having people start to memorize and work hard and see if they want this. If they truly want this, they're going to take it, right? So throughout those 3 weeks, half our people fall off, but half stay. After those 3 weeks, we lose maybe 5% of that. But those that leave are always welcome to come back. So I want you to know it's a program that offers fair and equal opportunity, but it's also a program that's going to challenge you, and we're not going to pull you along. And if you want this, you can take it. And what we've developed with that is a culture of care, a culture of desire. We've helped build esteem. Everyone's going to ask this question, or they're thinking this question, what's your biggest challenge? It's always that question. What's your biggest challenge? I say the same thing every time. It's building esteem. It's making someone feel like they're human again. It's kind of the saddest lesson that we could think of. You think it would be that béarnaise sauce, you don't want to break it, but that souffle that sometimes falls and you get nervous about. It's not any of these techniques. It's making someone feel good again. And by challenging someone to a higher standard, and then they achieve it, what happens? You start to puff your chest a little bit, and then you do what you do. As soon as you're comfortable, you turn them around again, and boop, something new. Oh, gotta work at it, gotta struggle, gotta get better, accomplish it, esteem, right? So this is kind of that lesson that we teach, and this kind of philosophy of hard work and care. Along the way at Edwin's, a couple things happen. I just said, students will switch positions every 4 weeks. So you're hosting 1 month, and you're going to be bartending another month, you'll be serving, and then you get in the kitchen. So what that is doing is giving an overall perspective of the industry. So one of the things I hated most was as a manager, as a sous chef or chef, was when someone would come in the kitchen, and I'll tell you 99% of the time, they were black, and they would say, I'm looking for a job. And I say, okay. They say, I'm looking to wash dishes. Every time, I'm looking to become a dishwasher. I'm looking to become a dishwasher. And I say to myself, you know what? We'll give you an opportunity, but you're going to start as a back waiter, and then we're going to move you to a server. And if you can accomplish that, you can do that as a bartender. The restaurant I used to run called Albatross over in University Circle. So I moved to New York to here. That's how I was running that restaurant. So that kept opening restaurants. I said, okay, I got to keep hiring. So I would do it the same way. But I wouldn't take someone who would settle for just washing dishes. So the idea at Edwin's is to teach this perspective of the business. So if you want to become a line cook, well, you've done it before, you've seen it, you're a little confident in it. And if you want to become a server, you can do that. And you know what? If you want to manage, you can see how the whole piece and puzzle fits together. So this idea of perspective is very valuable, and it can be taken anywhere somebody wants. And with the fundamentals, like 1, 2, 3 cookie dough, someone can make cookie dough in France. 1 part butter, 2 parts sugar, 2 parts flour, use a creaming method, voila, right? So these are the sort of lessons, this is sort of psychology behind Edwin's. And most importantly, which I didn't mention, is case management. It's such a generic word. What we do is we have a mother hen. We have a woman named Heather who just cares for our students and gets them what they need. So whether it's a driver's license, whether it's health insurance, whether it's housing that we built, she can organize that and get someone to a free apartment. It's limitless to what we can do when we have a dedicated community and dedicated staff and dedicated students willing to sacrifice for more. So that's the story of Edwin's. Where we're at today, the campus. If you don't know, we opened a campus. 3 buildings, 20,000 square feet. So we got an apartment building for current students who can live. That's free of charge, virtually, you have to pay utilities. And then $100 comes out of your check, but you get it back when you leave. Okay, so it's kind of like a savings. So when you do move on, you have a security deposit. The other one's alumni house, and that's for graduates that can live, and that's paid for rent. They pay $200 a month, and they have a place to stay. And the last building is our fitness center, test kitchen, and library. Library, if you have any cookbooks, you can send them our way, we'll take them. I see you giving the eye over there. It's okay if they're old cookbooks. Roasted chicken is a roasted chicken. Okay? So we have that library, so we have a whole facility where someone can, learn safely and dream big, right? I'll never forget the time I went to the Culinary Institute of America and I walked in their library and these, just like this church, wood ceilings and these beautiful walls, and I said, wow, I can dream, I can do anything I want to do. I can learn how to make Chateaubriand, I can learn how to do this, and that's the incubator we built there. Next to the butcher shop, so we're working on the building next door to it, so we can start to increase our curriculum and teach butchery. We can also distribute our meat, or you can also come in and shop for some meat. But the idea is to be able to teach more and spread our mission and improve that community of Buckeye. We're also teaching in prison, right? On the weekends, on Saturday, there's a Grass in Prison program where we teach culinary arts and hospitality in the prison. This goes on from April to December every Saturday throughout the year. And I've been doing that now for 5 years. So this is something we're going to continue to do. We believe that if we can encourage and inspire inside of prison, we can change that philosophy of going to prison as the end of the road. Hey, to go into prison is something maybe you can gain an edge at, right? And lastly, our culinary clubs. So there's only a few of us here at Edwins. So now we're planting seeds in other prisons. So we're teaching 2 inmates with culinary experience, and then they lead a group of 15 to 20 inmates on the Edwins program and curriculum. So that when someone says, hey, I'm kind of stopping point here, I'm not growing, I'm in prison, I can't go anywhere, my future is nothing, we start to encourage with this word of food and cooking. And that gives a lot of hope to some people. And if it doesn't, at least gives them an understanding that they can do something when they're released. And they don't have to worry about saying, hey, it's the end of life, there's more to do. So Edwins keeps growing, and it's more of a spirit than anything else. There's no state or federal money taken here as a nonprofit. I got 3 nonprofits. There's a foundation, Edwins Foundation, there's Edwins Campus, and there's Edwins Restaurant, right? So there's 3 of these nonprofits, and neither one of them touch state or federal money. And people always ask, why? I say, well, because it's up to our community to invest, okay? Even if it's $1 or $5, someone's got to put skin in the game, because if you're going to invest in change, if you're going to invest in fair and equal opportunities, there needs to be more than just sitting back and saying, go, go, go. There needs to be, some interaction. So I believe it's up to us to engage you, to get up early on Sunday mornings after a long Saturday night and say, hey, we need you, because we do. So, so whether that's in spirit, whether it's at the restaurant, whether it's on Facebook, right? You can like us, you hit like, and that's easy. It's also donating time or your talents, right? Some people are great mentors here. Some people have a great perspective. And you say, well, what do you mean? I was just an accountant. My perspective is not valuable. Well, I'm pretty sure it is, because you're still here on earth today, which means you overcame challenges, because life isn't easy, and you were successful at something. So why don't you share that with our students? Maybe it hooks with some, maybe it doesn't hook with others. But share your story. Just come in. We'll set up a time to guest speak and share your story. So mentors, donating goods. We have a store underneath the campus where we have goods for houses and clothing. So if a student says, hey, I need a lamp or I need a suit, they can come to our store. It's not like Macy's, but we can make it like Macy's if we could. But you come in and you say, well, I can use that, and they just take it. That's it. So there's a whole lot to get involved in, and there's a whole lot that I believe we can do as a community of Cleveland. Every human being, regardless of their past, has the right to a fair and equal future. And I think we've forgotten that sometimes. Maybe not we here in this church, but I think we as a society have forgotten that. So there's a million other things I can say, but it's probably better with questions. So if there's any questions, I'd like to take the next, however much time we have here to answer those questions. And thank you for your attention in the meantime. No one got up for coffee. All right, who's first? Yes, ma'am.
My understanding is that your program is very successful. Can you brag a little bit?
Sure. She said the program's successful, and can we boast about it? So yes and no. So I don't think tomorrow's guaranteed. So I don't know where we're going. Before I have to eat crow, which I don't know how to cook. I don't know how to cook crow. But before I do crow, but we've done some great things. So Edwin's things has been around for just a short time. This has been incubating since 2004 when I wrote a plan. So it's been thinking for a while. There's been a lot of work done to make sure things fit. Right? There's needs everywhere, and you got to find a way to fit. So what have we done so far? So don't think of a long term. Like, what have we done in 3 years? Like, just think about long term. So I can't brag that much. We're kind of slow. So we've had 150 graduates in the past 3 years at the EDWINS Institute here in Shaker Square. 150 graduates, 90+% are working. We have a waiting list. There's 50 restaurants in Cleveland who want to hire a student. They say, well, we need this, we need that. Now, maybe not everyone's a good fit. Ultimately, it's up to our students to decide. But that's a pretty proud stat that we have. Fortunately and unfortunately, we've had 2 students go back to prison. So we were at 0, which was 0% was great, but people didn't believe me. So I said, well, it's the truth. But now it's changed, and all these things happen. But it's definitely less than our 50% in the United States, and definitely less than 28% in Ohio. So we feel very proud of that. We also feel proud about the students that did go back to prison, because I think without the program, they may have gone someplace even worse. They're at a point in their life where this was the thing for them, the only thing for them. And taking that opportunity away would have been even worse. So we keep in touch, and we always talk. The restaurant's busier than ever. This year we're probably on pace to do $1.4 million. And that business, and the profit we run from that business, we don't make $1.4 million, obviously. You got to pay expenses and rent and food, but the money that we make from the restaurant and the contributions the guests leave in lieu of a tip, we offset 60+% of what it takes to run the school. So this free school that people get paid to go to is being offset by an efficient business. So we're proud of that, very proud of that. And we're proud to say the community has not only stepped up to fill the gap of the 40%, but helped us build the campus. Right? That was a need we had. We couldn't have our students learning and going back to shelter. So I said we got to build housing. And they all looked at me like I was nuts. But what would you do if your kid was in college? You want to stay at the Salvation Army? That's ridiculous, right? So the community stepped forward in like a short span of 3 months, raised $1.3 million. It's incredible. I mean, that's not from foundations. That's from hardworking individuals. Some in this room that said, "Here, do good." So we're very proud of the fact that Cleveland's standing behind this idea and this opportunity. We're proud of our frog legs. They're very good. We're proud of every day that our students get through the program, because it takes a lot of courage to jump into an area or a culture that's not yours. You know how that feels to be in a foreign place. It's not easy. So we got a lot to be proud of and brag about. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I have 2 questions. One is simple. Why Cleveland? You mentioned Detroit, had to get to Cleveland. And then the second is beyond culinary education. Are there other? Do they come to you with high? Do they have high school completion? Are they looking to go on to other college courses?
Okay, so 2 good questions. Why Cleveland? Well, when I wrote this business plan in 2004, I graduated high school in 1998. And so I said, okay, when I graduated, that's when I screwed up, right? I was a mess. And I said, well, how many other people were a mess, or are a mess in 1998, right? I don't know. Look, you understand, in cooking, you peel carrots. Not like very primitive thinking. So I just kind of went with that. And so we'll look at 98, let me look at, so the worst graduation rate for high school public schools in the United States was a small town in LA, outside of LA. The second worst was Cleveland, Ohio. And I said, okay, that's great. That's where I'll go. As simple as that. So very easy. Don't complicate things, right? There's a need, and I knew that if you build it, they would come, right? Okay. The second thing was, your other question was about students and what else would they like to do, or they desire to get their GED, or they desire this. So when someone comes into EDWINS, and this is part of the philosophy and the culture, everyone does a life plan. They say, hey, this is what I want to do in my life. I want to become X, Y, Z. This is what I think I want to do. So what we're charged with, the task that we need to do, is make sure that person, whoever that human being is, succeeds in that life plan. Now, if they want to fly to space, we're going to prepare them in 6 months to fly to outer space. Now, what does that mean? It's going to make sure that they have someone they're working with that's going to work on their math skills. And maybe we have a diner in a restaurant who's a pilot. Whatever it is, you see what I mean? So the idea is to keep people on their life plan making strides. Now, if a GED is one of those items, we're going to support them. We're going to call all of our the pocket full of people that help us out. We're going to call agencies if we have to, but we're going to get that person where they want to be. But I would say there's maybe 5% of our students that are desiring that because either they have it or, you know, between the time of EDWINS and the other things, they're not even thinking that they can do it. But that's all we're really seeing is about 5%. But let me tell you about those life plans. When you keep someone on track with their plan in life, all the other temptations start to become less powerful yeses. And that path that you're on is the most powerful yes. And that's where we have someone, you know, I don't know, what did Richard Nixon say? You grab by the, well, grab by the balls, their hearts and mind will follow. So that's kind of like the life plan, you know? It's like, and they're on course. So there's nothing else more powerful than that progress. And that's our secret sauce. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I know it's a very complicated subject. Can you speak a little bit to how you think and what efforts there are for this country to break free of the prison industry?
I don't know.
25 minutes.
Yeah, that's a really good question. The question was, you know, how can we break this cycle of incarceration? Is that, I mean, it'd be like, okay, how can we break America's cycle of spending, right? I mean, it's been ingrained in our culture now, and there's this kind of this I don't know, there's this like pressure from media, there's so much blasted at us on what things should be and how they are, and just putting things in boxes so we can live our lives the way we need to. It would just take, you know, just takes time. It just takes time, it takes living proof, and little by little, I think that someone learns a lesson from someone that was incarcerated, they start to change their minds, and over time, maybe, you know, we can start to rid ourselves of this whole culture that we have of incarceration. I'm not one to question judges. If there's any judges in this room, and you're elected officials, and you're put in place to do a job, do your job. Right? My job is to help those that are in prison, struggling with hope, and when they come home, how can they succeed? But I definitely know our system's broken. Right now, we have so like we're really killing it in recidivism in Ohio. Nation average 50%, Ohio's 28%, Cuyahoga County is 27% recidivism, which sounds like a lot, but we have the most returning citizens than any other city in Ohio. The next one is Hamilton County. They have 2,000 people coming home. That's Cincinnati. We have 4,000 people coming home each year, yet we're 1% lower in recidivism across the state average, which means this county, our judges, our reentry court judges, our agencies, you know, we're doing a good job of keeping people not going back in. But here's the killer thing. We're at the all-time highest rate of people in prison. So we've passed 52,000 people behind bars, which means people aren't going back, not as much. But we're continually sending people there. So I don't know. Sometimes I feel like we're on I don't care if we're on a treadmill or not. We're going to help everyone we can help. But yeah, something's got to give. Something's got to give. I think it's up to us and our kids and our grandkids to say, let's change this. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
How do you link volunteers in? I mean, it sounds vague to say we can use anything. We can use, you know,
Yeah.
How do we enter into what you have?
So that's a good question. The first thing, you know, you'll meet with Val and I. Valerie's back there in the pink shirt, or myself, and we just talk. And you say, look, you know, my name's Jill. I want you 5 hours a week, and here's what I'm good at. I'll say, look, here's a list of like 5 things that we could use. Like you could file paperwork. You could, you know, touch and paint. You know, we always need, you know, construction things at the building. You know, we could always use like those, you know, very simple things. Then we can take that to another level of you know, mentorship or something you specialize in. You say, you know, I don't really know how to knit. Okay. Well, how well do you knit? Knit very well. Well, why don't you show a class how to knit? And you laugh at me, but you know what? Maybe someone's going to want to do that. And maybe that's the one thing that helps someone decompress. See, we have this woman named Barbara Miller. She does handwriting analysis at the restaurant. Okay? I thought she was some loon. She came in, she sat at table 52 2 years ago, and what she said, I can help you. I can help you with handwriting analysis. And when you're dying, like in this business, when you work as a maitre d' on the floor, you hear everything. Oh, you hear it all. You hear it all. And so, you know, of course, man, no problem. That's great, please, you know. And she followed up. And then she came in, and I said, okay, well, try my handwriting first. She pinned me, right, exactly. Okay, so this woman's got something. And then I said, well, try my manager. Pinned them right directly. I said, okay, I'll let you do it to the students, talk to them. And this is what happened. This woman started to engage our students. So with a swoop of an L or the cross of a T, she would say, you know what, you seem very forgiving. You seem like you got a really good quality about you, your penmanship, you know. She's not voodoo, she's just looking at it objectively. She's been doing this for 30 years. And the student says, yeah, you know, I am. The next thing you know, a conversation happens. All right? Next thing you know, all the students are lined up to see her. And I say, shit. I say, I gotta hire this woman. So now, this loon from table 52 is on our payroll. And I got students lined up to see her. It's like, I can't, like before I would say, okay, volunteers can only do this, or they can only do that. But after I saw what Barbara Miller did with her passion, I say, now I can't, what do you got? Or what do you feel passionate about? Because that's the energy that connects. The false energy doesn't connect all of you. So we got people who do financial literacy, who are, you know, hedge fund managers or financial managers during the day, but you know, they'll come at night and talk to our students about how to just, like, you know, look at your bank account, look at your plan, and it's wonderful. So whatever it's always best to have a conversation. That's all. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Where does the name Edwins come from?
Well, two places. The Declaration of Education wins, right? That's number one. Education wins. If we can educate our diners to a new reality that hey, look, someone from prison isn't what we thought. If we can educate our students to the idea that there's more to life. If we can educate those in prison, and like COs, like correction officers and so on, that there's more than a number behind this shirt. And we won. Education wins, okay? It also ties with my middle name, which is Edwin. It's my grandfather. What you got here? My grandfather was a real SOB. You thought Charlie Trotter was bad. This guy was awful. So, but he had a hard-working spirit. You know, he was the president of the union in Detroit. You know, it's not easy. So there's this idea that education wins, but there's also this idea of hard work and grit. And when they come together, you can do anything you like. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I've noticed that you have evolved your menu to reflect some nutritional changes. And I think you have a lot of wonderful research and resources in this community around fresh vegetables and fruits. So can you talk a little bit about how you do that?
Sure. Yeah. Like how do we engineer our menu to be local and be fresh and be smart, I guess, at times. Well, I'll be honest with you. We use a lot of butter and everything, and salt, and we're proud of it. So you know who comes in and eat a lot? What's the doctor from the Cleveland Clinic? Rosen? He comes in. All he orders is vegetable. I say, can we get you a souffle? No. How about some creme anglaise? No. Just vegetable. So we have healthy options for doctors, and anyone who cares. So we have a vegan menu, but we're not afraid to say, hey, we use butter, we're going to use fat, and it's okay. It's moderation is what we try to preach. However, so where do we get our produce from? So in Grafton Prison, we got a garden as big as this room here. And those men, we plant tomatoes, corn, eggplants, zucchini. So a lot of the fresher produce in the summertime comes from our Grafton garden from the prison. We have a small herb garden out back, which is more for the neighbors to pick and eat. And we have 8 grapevines, and we haven't seen one grape this year. So they're going to a good home. That was the goal. But otherwise, it's just looking at quality. It's looking at quality. What around us is in high quality, and what can we use with that high quality to make this restaurant better, to help the education more. So I mean, some people have hops growing down in Superior. There's these urban farms on 50/50 standard. There's one that we use. But yeah, we're always trying to use what's best, which doesn't always mean local. Yes, sir.
What have you done to transfer this kind of program to other industries?
Good question. So we'll just take every phone call from everyone who's interested. Okay, if you're interested, and someone says, I want to start this program, well, for sure. I can send you our business plan, I can send you our curriculum, we videotaped all of our lessons, I can send you that, it doesn't matter. If someone's interested in growing this, I'm happy to do that. But one thing I'm running out of time of, these 90 to 100 hour weeks are getting, there's not a whole lot of room to travel. But if someone's really that interested, they'll come to Edwins, we'll hook them up for like a 5-day, 3-day session where they can come in and learn from each instructor. They can see how it unfolds. But I'm not looking at expanding this in other cities. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of dedication. And right now I'm putting myself fourth. My family's in third place. The community's in first place. The business is in second. But you have to understand, there's only one of these in the world, right? And, how does it work? It works from all these students sacrifice, all these managers sacrifice. sacrificing. Everyone's sacrificing, and that doesn't always happen in one place at a given time. So it's hard to find that right team to help someone with, but I can help, them, how to get incorporated, how you structure things, how the curriculum should unfold. But our goal is to stay right here in Cleveland and build down Buckeye. Do our butcher shop, do our pastry shop, do a wine and cheese shop, control our supply chain, right? Cut our cost of goods, increase our efficiency, teach better, build a community. And to me, it makes more sense to drive it deeper here in Cleveland. And in a visibility, someone can say, hey, it's possible. I saw it, I heard it, it's possible, and we call them, and we can help you from there. Yeah. But if you want to volunteer to go to cities, a city, okay? Yes, sir.
What's Edwin's relationship to the union's farmers market?
Well, they're a tenant in the building right next to us. Whatever Danita needs, we'll do. We'll say, Danita needs something, we'll do this. She's actually, say, hey, can we get some of your students to lead some of those demonstrations at the farmers markets? And we put it out to our students. So our relationship is good. And we're not in bed. I mean, it's not like, whatever they say we do or whatever we say they do. But we definitely, we communicate. We communicate.
In terms of having some of your graduates set up their own farm, is this?
Yeah, it hasn't come up yet. No, it has come up yet. Kim Fields. I don't know what Kim, I forgot her last name. She's working, she did want to do her own farm, and she's actually doing it. So she's with this gentleman, his name is Tim. He's got this farm, it was an old church, an old abbey on Superior. And he grows hops, he grows vegetables, and she's actually working with him right now. So if anyone's got that desire, yeah, that would be, that'd be an option. The farmers market, all the farms, I mean, from Tea Hill Farms to Killbuck Mushrooms. We have this town is great. Anything you want to do, there's someone who's doing it. Really. Yes, ma'am. You've been patient.
Are you unique? Are you aware of any other programs similar to yours in other cities or states?
So is there any of the programs like EDWINS? There's plenty with the spirit of EDWINS, okay? So right here in Cleveland, we have Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries, you might know. They do a great job over there. So they have like a kitchen where they teach students out of. They have like a little food cart by the Brown Stadium. There's other ventures, around the city that help those coming out of prison and help those with less wanting to do more. And around the country there is. But to this level, like, we're building Cadillac, we're building the finest. And I haven't seen too many organizations try to build the best. So I think we are unique. I think we're the only white tablecloth restaurant that's doing it to this level and offering these services. And whatever problem comes up, we're going to help take care of. So yeah, I hope there's more.
More hats off to you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I had an absolutely delightful experience a couple of Sundays ago.
Okay.
There was no activities going on downtown.
Okay.
I had an opportunity to tour the new Hilton Hotel. It took about 4.5 hours. We saw the place inside and out. There's hardly anybody staying there. Staff everywhere. Absolutely friendly. Couldn't say enough. In the Elliott Ness Lounge on the 6th floor, our guide was the most charming lady you'd ever want to talk to. And she proudly said, I'm a graduate of Edwin.
Is that right? Unbelievable. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Did you get any kind of a bump or attention when the RNC was in town in July?
Yeah.
I heard that restaurants, if they went downtown, they didn't get any extra business.
We were great. I mean, for that week in July, we were definitely up, 20% or so over last year. A couple things happened special. The Washington Post did an article. They came to Cleveland. They went to 10 restaurants, and they said we were tops. Our service was great. Our food was great. I mean, that was a big bump. So those coming from Washington were already thinking about this idea. National press doesn't hurt your seats being full. So that was good. The CNN piece was right around that time. And then we started getting these people on television who would come in. A guy from Fox came in, he talked about us. Al Roker came in, he said, hey, this is great. He started talking about us. So when that happens, people listen. And if they're only in town for a short period, they come. So we were good. We were busy. It wasn't like bananas. It wasn't crazy. But it certainly wasn't like the stories I heard from some other parts of town. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. We were hoping for a scandal, though. someone comes in and something happens.
You really want my 100 or so cookbooks?
What's that?
Do you really want my 100 or so cookbooks?
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's a good question. You can bring them to the restaurant. We can bring them right to the restaurant, and if you want to see the campus, we can just bring them to the campus, and we can give you a tour around. Yeah. Make sure you autograph every one of them with a special message. Yeah, we do want them though. Yes.
What do you think about the restaurant scene in Cleveland? Zach, there was a city club conference about talk about saturation.
Look, if the people want it, deliver it. But unfortunately, I think there's a lot of mediocrity in this town, and I think that there's also a clientele that's very loyal. I mean, I give the Browns as an example. I think we don't hold water in Chicago or New York. We're not this great epicenter for culinary arts. We're not. We do have talented individuals here, but because of the expansion, there's very few people who are very good at their craft, right? And then when you start having more, you start to have to hire more, and those people who are very good at their craft aren't able to teach it, or don't have the time, or don't have the desire to teach it anymore to those beneath them, right? So when you start losing the touch, it's like passing the cookie, or what is it, telephone? It's the same thing. The quality starts to get diluted. But then you have those supporting it, which is good. I mean, it's business. It's good food. But I don't think the whole package is great here in Cleveland. And I think our chefs are, you got to remember what it means to be a chef. A chef is a leader. A chef is one who teaches. A chef is one who mentors. And the idea and philosophy around a restaurant experience is special. It's not just taking their money and going like this. And I see a lot of that. I see a lot of chefs, they know what they can get away with. Money-wise, they say, oh yeah, we can use that instead of this. And you start doing that too much, and then, I don't know. I think our restaurant scene is good, it's not great. I think there's some great local chefs, but I think that the expansion is, I don't know, I guess get it while it's good, but I mean, to me, less is more. Do one thing right, do it right every day, and you'll stand. That's a good question. That's a very good question. Yeah, but the Washington Post article is a great way to, if you want to look at Cleveland's restaurant scene, here's a big city diner who objectively look at each restaurant. I think that's where you look at our results. And plus, we're number one. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
I hear a subtle screening process. In other words, you come to bars and craft them.
Yeah.
So you know some people who are interested in food already.
Yeah.
You do programs within the prison system. So
Yeah.
could you explain in a little more depth and this is a positive word, your screening process?
Yeah. So, I mean, those are two separate tracks. The idea was that is there like a screening process with, we have programs in prison and we have a program on the outside. How do they correlate? How do they speak to each other? They're two separate tracks. They're two separate degrees. There's two separate, certificates. So if someone graduates a prison program or a culinary club and wants to come to Edwin's, they're welcome to do that. But they don't have to. They can go on their own way. Our screening process is usually our instincts and just talking to an individual and then giving them the opportunity and supporting them, helping them if they need childcare, helping them if they need transportation, give them the tools it needs to get the job done. But if they don't want to do the job, then there's the door. It doesn't work. So our screening process is pretty intense. It's 3 weeks long. But we say yes to everyone. Yeah. There's also an organization called Passages we work with that helps take all the applicants in on 36th and Perkins. Because our classes don't start every day. There's it's 6 months long, but it's two months in between each class cycle. Someone could be without a necessity for 8 weeks. So to solve that, we say, hey, register at Passages. And they fill out the application. If they have a need, they can help it right then and there. Yeah, so I suppose it's kind of like a screening process. Yeah, it's helping. It's helping. Yes, ma'am.
How do students learn about your program?
Okay, so how do students find our program? So working inside the prisons, is big. Working with judges, working with anyone in probation or parole. making sure that our message is, is on the airwaves, getting inside. Hey, students, if you're interested in a second chance, here's an opportunity. So it's just good old-fashioned hitting the ground running and talking and speaking. Derek, who is here, he goes in and he talks to those in private schools, he talks to those in public schools. So he'll go out to juvenile correction facilities and just spreading the word. And we spread the word, but the strongest word is word of mouth. Yeah. Before it was different. There was a lot more work. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
What are your demographics, age-wise, and
We'll take anyone, any age, but it's 90%, demographic, her question was age-wise, demographics, gender, etc. So it's 90% men, which is, reflecting our prison population, which is like 95% men. It's, 90% African-American, which, when you look at the numbers, it's around the African-American prison, right? So we reflect our prison population. Our age group is in the 30s, that's our wheelhouse. So the young children, the young kids don't make it. There's two people who are 19 and 18, and they made it through, but every other youth is struggled. We've had a 67-year-old make it through. So if you're interested, I don't know how old you are, but no one's too old and no one's too young. But in that span, you have to understand at 30-some years old, sometimes people are in a second number. This way of life is just like enough is enough. You get a little older, it's like, all right, I got to make a decision to change. And if now's the time, here's the place. So those are the most successful students we have in that age group. James, there's two more questions. One, yes, ma'am? Thank you. Thank you. I tell you what, when they call, I thought they were trying to sell something. I told them to get lost. This is a CNN call. I said, okay, listen, man, I don't need cable. We're okay. It was actually kind of fun. Yeah. Okay, last one. Thank you for the comment, though. Okay, we're good. Thank you.
October 2nd, 9th, and 16th. Thank you.